hour. Number 3, our friend Merrill Reese will join us at 5:30 Eastern, the legendary voice of the Philadelphia Eagles. Would we say in the last 15 years of NFL play, these have been the dominant defensive tackles and interior tackles in the sport? Donald, Fletcher Cox, Adama Suh, Vince Wilfork. Is there one more? In the last 15 years, for a stretch, inside that for a period of time, would we agree those are the 4 in the last 15 years have been the most dominant defensive tackles? Calais Campbell's an end. Interior tackles. Okay. So from 2008 up to now, yeah. Yeah. From 2008, that sounds right. I'll go from that. That's enough body of work. Jones from Kansas City. Would you put Chris Jones in there? I think he belongs in there. Chris Jones belongs in that conversation. So Donald, Fletcher Cox, Suh, Wilfork, and Chris Jones. So since 2008. By the way, I'm going to ask Merrill this. If I had to rank those guys and put those guys in order, Donald 1. Suh or Fletcher Cox? This could determine, because we brought this up yesterday about Fletcher Hall of Fame. Adama Suh stats. Adama Suh. Five Pro Bowls. Defensive Rookie of the Year. Fletcher Cox.
According to Wikipedia,
6 Pro Bowls. All-decade team. Who's the better player? I didn't think it was going to be this close. Fletcher's been more consistent of a pass rusher. Suh's fallen off as of late. Adama Suh stats. I got asked this question last night. 1, 6, 6, 2.5, 4.5, 4.5. Yeah, he never had a double-digit sack season except for the first year he played, and he's at 71.5. Fletcher Cox stats. Fletcher had 10.5, 7, 3.5, 6.5, 3.5, 10.5, 5.5, 6.5. He's 10 less. Or he's 6 less than Suh. He'll pass him. He'll pass him. I would say Fletcher Cox has been the second best defensive lineman since 2008. And Sue's third. I would not have said that 4 years ago. I would not have said that. I'll put Chris Jones fourth, and I'll put Wolford fifth. So, you think in the last 15 years, the second best defensive tackle is a six-time Pro Bowler, a two-time champion, NFC champion, and a Super Bowl champion is not worthy of consideration for the Pro Football Hall of Fame? I think you're crazy. And for the amount of success that the football team has had winning. Fletcher Cox, really, since 2008, has he been your best football player? Has Fletcher Cox been your best football player in the last 15 years? One thing I'll say, they both have been model of health throughout their careers. Yeah, oh, that's a fact. Tone says this, you can argue Lane or Cox. Who's been the most productive in Mr. International? I do too. Has Fletcher Cox been your most productive football player the last 15 years? Both sides of the ball. Tone says, yes, he has. That's quite a proclamation when you've got two Hall of Famers he's competing against. Do you understand when you make this comment? Tone just says, Fletcher Cox, in his opinion, has been the best Eagle in the last 15 years. That means better than two potential Hall of Famers and Jason Kelsey and Lane Johnson. I'm going to ask Merrill Reese that. That's actually going to be my first question to him. Okay? I may waffle. Ain't nothing wrong with waffles, man. Ain't nothing wrong with waffles. Brandon Graham is not in Fletcher Cox's league. It's not close. In production and in dominance. Brandon Graham has never been a dominant player. Fletcher Cox has been a dominant force. From the first time out of Ole Miss when he put his fingers down in the dirt for the Eagles, he's been a force. Okay? And there was a time when I liked him more than Donald because I thought he played the run better. Aaron Donald is not asked to play the run. Aaron Donald is asked to make TFLs. And again, it's a different NFL. It's not his fault. It's just a different NFL. But that's why a 6', 275 defensive tackle could play in today. Do you understand that's why he could play in today's NFL? Have you ever looked at the size of Aaron Donald? He's 6 feet tall. He's 270. He's not a giant dude like the guys you have in the middle in Philly. Everyone's always under the notion that Aaron Donald's is big. He's not. He's a powerful guy. He's fast. But he's 6 feet, 270. He's not a big guy. Okay? I mean, him standing next to Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter would look funny. He would look like a fullback compared to those two dudes. I mean, Donald was a Pennsylvania champion. I'm not talking about his ability. I'm talking about his structure and his physical build. He's a little guy. Okay? He's a little guy. Philadelphia. He had a great play against Brady. He's not a dominant player. He's a really good player. That's not dominant. David Tyree had a great catch in the Super Bowl. Wouldn't consider David Tyree one of the greatest Giants. Shit, the guy Butler had an interception on the goal line. He was benched 2 Super Bowls later. Whatever, dude. Again, I hate talking like that because it sounds like I'm throwing shade. I'm not. But when you're talking about a player's position and you're talking about a player's status and how others look at him and you evaluate him, Brandon Graham has been a really great football player for them. He's not a dominant player. He's never been and never will be. 11 sacks is a heck of a season. Heck of a season. Okay? I wouldn't look at him and say that's a dominant end, though. Never been. Brandon Graham has never been considered one of the better defensive ends in the NFL. By anybody. I'm not even sure how many Pro Bowls he's made. Has he made one? I think he made one last year. Did he? Brandon Graham. Brandon Graham.
According to Wikipedia, Brandon Lee Graham is an American football defense.
Hey, to play as long as he did is a great achievement. Yeah, he's got a Pro Bowl. Good. 2020. Fantastic. Okay? I'm talking about a guy who's got 6 versus another guy who's got 5. We're talking about complete dominance here. I mean, Fletcher Cox has been a spectacular player. And again, that's why I'm bringing it back a little bit here, because yesterday we brought it up and there's some people saying that they don't think he is. Well, then you're not going to think Sue is. And Fletcher Cox in the last 15 years has been the second best defensive tackle in the league. That's quite an accomplishment, especially when you're seeing that the money that's being paid out to defensive tackles today had 7 sacks last year. And people said, like me, wasn't the best start off to the season. I think he finished strong, so he had a pretty good year. 7 sacks is not a pretty good year. 7 sacks from an interior defensive lineman is spectacular. And we're saying that's, get this, you know what the most, right, Tone? You know what the most people are saying about Fletcher? You know, he's not quite the player he used to be. The guy had 7 sacks and 50 tackles last year. Okay, well, I don't know, man. I mean, what the hell was his what was his high ceiling bar? That's pretty damn good. You know, I probably have put him up and expected a little bit more out of him. But then I look at it and go, 50 tackles, 7 sacks, DT? I don't know. That's getting around the horn and making plays there. Okay? Hey, man. Only played 40% of the snaps. Dude, he's a great football player. Chris Jones will probably, I want to see where he is in sacks because Jones, again, it's a different era with Chris Jones and Aaron Donald, though. These guys are not asked to do the shit that Fletcher Cox is being asked to do. Chris Jones stats. Chris Jones has been in the league longer than I thought. He's in the league longer than I thought. 15 and a half last year, 9. He's got 65 and a half since 16. Whew, that's a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. And he's got 65 sacks. He's almost at 10 sacks a year. That's 9 a year. He's getting around the horn, man. That's pretty good stuff there. 7 sacks is the second lowest snap count percentage in his career. Cox played 65% of the snaps. His career high is 81% and 15, and career low is 52% his rookie season. And he had, I believe, 6 that season as well. Jason Peters did. He did dominate for a long period of time as well. Okay. 65% for a guy that's 32. And then you bring him back at 10 million. I thought the number was crazy. Today, I think he's underpaid. If Jordan Davis if Jordan Davis duplicates the season that Fletcher Cox had last year, it'll be a grand slam year for Jordan Davis. And everybody at the NovaCare Center will have a sigh of relief. Because right now, everyone at the NovaCare Center is doing this. I don't know. They're hoping. You don't ever want a personnel department hoping that the player pans out like Nakobe Dean. You're hoping. You have no intel to tell you he will. I don't care how smart he is. I don't care how many national championships he played on. I don't care what conference he played on. Can he play in the NFL? Yet to be determined. And again, even for me, we'll see. Got a lot on his plate. Here. I thought it was pretty cool what we saw with Madden. Madden's got some pretty good statistics. Okay, and they both ranked Lane Johnson and Trey Williams as a 98 when it came to tackles. And I brought this up, and I'll continue to bring this up to be fair to Trent. Trent plays left tackle. It's a more of a premium position. Does that make Trent better than Lane? Lane fits the system perfectly in Philly. Trent, you got to remember something about Trent Williams too. He crushed people in Washington. And he's still continuing to crush people in San Francisco. Doesn't matter where he is. He's an offensive tackle version of Larry Allen. That's how good that guy is. You have to understand, when you're talking Trent Williams, you're talking Larry Allen-ish kind of stuff. He is a first ballot Hall of Fame guy. There's not a debate. He's better than Joe Thomas. Okay? When you give me Joe Thomas or Trent Williams, there's no comparison. They gave Hassan his flowers too. He ranked in the top 10 edge rushers in Madden with a 91. That's great. That's absolutely great. And he should be. Dan, thoughts on Mozzie Smith? I thought he was a third rounder. A lot of people like him out of Michigan. I want to see the kind of impact he's going to have on that defense. You still think Cox is overpaid? No, I do not. Actually, I reversed that. And I think actually, Sydney, I think he may be underpaid. Maybe he should have been a $15 million guy, because seven sacks and 50 tackles, you're making it happen. Lane goes up against the best DEs in the league. No, the blindside tackle takes on the best. That's really not true. They move now today, Yale, to be fair to your take, they move guys around more. And they just don't rush from the blind side as much as they used to back in the day, like they did. But the blind side is the vulnerable side of the quarterback, not the front side. I mean, the right tackles, that's why there's less of them in the Hall of Fame than there are left tackles. You have to have a premium and premier left tackle to protect your quarterback's blind side. They do. And it's more where you're seeing guys being put on the front side and on over the right tackle. But the majority of the premier tackles in the NFL today are not right tackles. It's him. I think there's another guy. I think there's another guy. I can't remember where. Maybe the Texans. Jeremy Tunsil's a left tackle. The kid in Los Angeles with the Chargers as a tackle, left tackle. There's very few guys that are right tackles. And that's why they really pay those guys. Usually, and what used to happen in the past, if you were a failure left tackle, they moved you to right guard or right tackle. And that's why, you don't really see premium positions at right tackle. Hey, again, like I said, the Eagles run the ball. They're in an RPO offense. He benefits from that. And, he benefits totally from the RPO because that's the system they run. They don't run a drop back. You would never have Lane Johnson in a drop back at the right tackle position. You'd want to move him to your premium position at left. I would, because I have to have my block. If you're Joe Burrow, you don't want your right tackle to be your dominant tackle. You want your blindside guy, the guy who gets your back. Why in the world would I want to have a guy, my best tackle, in front of me when I can kind of escape and see what's coming at me at least, versus a guy I can't see behind me? That's why that guy makes the most money. Statler made the call to put Mulata at left tackle. Mulata's a better athlete. Mulata's a better athlete. He's proven it. Mulata's the better athlete of the two. Not saying Lane's not a great athlete. He's the better athlete. Here's a guy that didn't even know how to put on football pads. And now he's a starting left tackle for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's played in the Super Bowl and is becoming more of a dominant player every time he steps on the field. And he never played the sport. That's all you need to know, dude. Here's a guy that never played the sport. It's like finding a lacrosse guy and having him as your left offensive tackle. And he never put the gear on. He's never been through an organized team practice. He doesn't even know what a water break is. He has no idea what it's like to push a sled with 5 other guys. Had no idea. He's the better athlete. What Jordan Mailata has done has been insane. You don't find a guy who's never played a sport and he's one of the top 10 tackles in your sport. And he didn't play it. He's only played the game 3 years. That's crazy. I saw the NFL put a rule in the they haven't changed anything in the RPO. Imagine finding a USFL quarterback and turning him into one of the best pitchers in baseball. That's what Lata's like. Yeah. You found a guy and you saw a 6'8", 350-pound frame. And you just assumed he could do what? Play tight end? Play D tackle? He probably could have played all them positions. Jordan Mailata is so athletic, he could probably play DT, tight end, 2 guards, right tackle. He's your best athlete in the line. This guy never played football. He never played. I don't give a shit if he played Australian rules football. He never played professional football. He doesn't know what a drop step is. He doesn't know how to get on second level, slip and scoop. He doesn't know how to defend a backside linebacker blitzing. He doesn't know how to pick up blitzing linebackers or safeties. His footwork, where did he learn that? It was an innate thing he had. Stoutland, what do you mean, Scott? You should be revering this. This guy is so gifted. Can you imagine if he had 4 years of college? Jordan Mailata, he'd be the first pick in the draft. You don't do that. You don't just go, well, I'm going to try this sport and become one of the top 9 guys in the game. And you've only played 3 years. What? That the whole story on your team. Lane's great. Fletcher's great. Those guys played 20 years of football. This guy's played 3. 3. Right. And Mr. International. He could be pinned at your left tackle for the next decade. And so, like, over the last 20 years, you'll have two guys playing left tackle for you? That's how you win championships. So you could have, in theory, outside of some injuries, you could have, for the next 25 years, two guys that played left tackle for you. Holy cow, is that great? I mean, and then you got Landon Dickerson. And I made the comparison to this. Look, I'm not saying that these guys are going to be Upshaw and Shell, but they can have the same kind of impact. Landon Dickerson has rolled into being a guard. Remember, there was talk of playing him at center, and that they thought that that was going to be the position because they've been trying to replace Kelsey, which has been almost impossible to replace. So they settled him in at guard. Do you realize that's what they're hoping for? The same kind of result with Cam Jurgens. They're hoping Cam Jurgens, and they'll go into the draft looking for another center and get Kelsey's help again along with Stoutland. They're hoping Cam Jurgens turns into Landon Dickerson. Because if he turns into Landon Dickerson, it's a homegrown guy, and you developed him the same way you developed Dickerson. Look at the guys at your old line too. Again, it's such a great job in the organization. 7th rounder, 2nd rounder, 6th rounder, 3rd rounder, 4th pick. Okay. The range of the draft picks, but the result in the effort is at the same level. They didn't overdraft anybody. They actually underdrafted. And Lane was right on the 4th pick.